There was a meeting. There was a meeting? All right, so I had to do a video this morning on something I saw spread on Twitter yesterday, which I find absolutely fascinating if it is true. And we're going to take this all with a grain of salt, but it is fantastic news if it is true, and it is so detailed and has a lot of information in it that either somebody spent a lot of time trying to fabricate this or it is actually true. Now, before I talk about this particular story, I want to talk about a couple of other things first. Warner Brothers Discovery is doing some interesting things. First, they have released a new promotional image for the Flash film. So they're going to be going full force with the promotion on these movies going forward, especially on social media where it doesn't cost a lot of money to push this stuff out there to get people excited. And I've kind of changed my tune on these next few movies coming out, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that towards the end of the video. So you're going to want to stick around for my reasoning for kind of changing my tune and what I think needs to happen with these next 4 films in order for our voices to be heard. But here's that promotional image. So here's the interesting thing about this particular image here. We don't see Batman, Ben Affleck's Batman, anywhere. We see the Flash with his new costume, which he did receive from Ben Affleck in the comic series, and I don't know if they're going to explain that in the movie or not. We've got Sasha Calle's Supergirl, and we have this other Flash who has the exact same costume as Batman from Batman Returns, and he's changed it into a Flash costume. So this is their promotional image, and you can see that the Flash Ezra Miller's version is the center of the image. So it's kind of interesting that they're already pushing the other main characters to the side. So this is their first promotional image. I am going to be following this all the way up until the release of the film. And like I said, I'm going to talk about why I think it's important for us to go see these next 4 films at the end of the video and why I've kind of changed my tune on this. The other interesting thing here is the fact that Warner Brothers has announced a 2-film collection here with Man of Steel and Black Adam, which I find completely and utterly bizarre. This does not go in line with anything that they have been mentioning over the last couple of months, and with them bringing in James Gunn and kind of turning their back on the Snyderverse entirely, that they would even have the gall to release a 2-pack with Black Adam and Man of Steel other than to just get collectors like myself to buy multiple collections. And I will not be buying this. In fact, I did not buy the Zack Snyder trilogy until it went on sale for Black Friday. I did finally pick that up, and I'm glad I did. It's an amazing 4K Blu-ray set. But this, to me, does not make any sense whatsoever, especially when they're turning their back on all of this coming up. It's just a money grab by them, which they're trying to grasp at everything they can. So that leads us to the last story here. So supposedly, there was a meeting. Now, we all heard about Deborah Snyder possibly meeting with Warner Brothers last week. And if you notice, James Gunn did not make a comment on this. In fact, he hasn't made a comment on anything over the last couple of weeks, except in regards to some storylines that he was promoting that people thought were going to be, possibly the storyline for Superman, which he quickly shot down. Those were just things he was reading and he was kind of partaking in. But he hasn't posted since then. It's been quite a while, and he's gone kind of silent. And I believe that's because things are happening behind the scenes. And supposedly last week, Deborah Snyder proposed to Warner Brothers to produce through the Stone Quarry 10 films and series to be released from 2024 in a period of 3 years to completely close the Snyderverse. Meaning she pitched to them a way for them to produce these movies, close out the storyline, take it away from Warner Brothers, still have them involved, but off to the side with a different movie studio taking over. Ben Affleck, Christopher Nolan, and Alan Horn would co-produce these films. That would be the executive overseeing would be done by Warner Brothers and DC, while financing would be provided by the Stone Quarry via pre-approved credit, as well as Nolan's Syncopy Films, with Warner only putting 30 to 35% financing and fully obtaining the distribution and exploitation rights of the films by granting the use of DC characters and stories on bail. So basically what would happen is Warner Brothers would only front 30 to 35% of the financing, but they would have full distribution rights, meaning they would get all of the profits when these movies finally do get released in whatever form they would. They said these films would be totally alternate to the DCEU, and would have various directors in addition to Zack Snyder directing a couple and designing the narrative rundown alongside a large team of writers. It says more info to be revealed soon. All right, so we have to talk about this here. First of all, there may be no truth to this story whatsoever, but it is so detailed with the information that leads me to believe something probably did happen behind the scenes. Now, the one thing that the story does not divulge is whether or not they took a bite at this and decided to move forward with this or not. But I think it would be a smart thing to do to finish out the storyline so that they're not alienating the majority of the fan base. This would allow Henry Cavill to come back, Ben Affleck, everybody to close out the whole Snyderverse storyline so they could move on with the DCU being unimpeded by all this baggage that they're bringing along with this. Because like I said, I think what James Gunn did was the worst possible scenario to have the studio, and what I believe was the plan all along, to bring Henry Cavill back to get people excited to see if people would bite at Black Adam, and then pull it away immediately. It was just a marketing ploy to get people to go see the film. I think they had this planned out ahead of time. I think James Gunn was going to be the man and has been the choice for quite some time. They just didn't want to reveal that until Black Adam got released. Not that they were waiting to see if it would succeed or not, but just to try to get as many people into the theater as they could. Now, this is the biggest middle finger, like I've said, the biggest backstab I've ever seen a studio do to its paying audience. You're going to tell us that Henry Cavill's back as Superman, have his triumphant return, and then fire him immediately. Now, I've gone through a lot of different emotions with all of this since these announcements. At first, I was very angry and said I was done with DC. Then I've kind of cooled off a little bit, and I'm looking at this from the outside in, and here's what I think needs to happen for them to get the message. I think it's going to be very important, and please listen to me on this and spread the message if you can. I think it's going to be important for us to support the next 4 films, because these are the last 4 films that have anything to do with what Zack Snyder started. Now, a lot of people are going to call me just this massive Snyder fan, that I'm ignorant and that all I care about is Snyder stuff. I don't, but I do want to see the characters that he created continue on. There's still this whole universe that was created, and I would like to see that, further these stories, which Warner Brothers has decided to completely just ignore or go in a different direction entirely. And we don't know what the plan is yet because Gunn hasn't announced that. But I think it's important for us to support these last 4 films as much as possible so that when Gunn stuff comes out, that's when you start the boycott, because it'll show the huge drop in numbers from what the last bit of what Zack Snyder had left behind to what Gunn is going to do in the future. And I think it's a good idea for us to support it and then to not support it when James Gunn has his stuff come out, just to show them how powerful the box office can be when you backstab the fans. Still, none of us are happy about these decisions. Some are, but if you see the majority of the comments in my videos, more people agree with me. I think we are the majority. We are definitely not the minority. There are some people that absolutely hate Snyder and anything that he started, but they're not the majority, and they're not the ones paying to go see these films over and over and over again. The true fans of these characters are still here. We want our voices heard. The best way to do that is by using our pocketbook, our checkbook, our finances, and turn our back on Warner Brothers. But after the next 4 films come out. I don't think we should do it before. In fact, I'm actually going out to buy Black Adam today. It was released on 4K and Blu-ray, and I'm going to pick up my copy, the Steelbook, from Best Buy here in a little bit. I am going to keep these as part of my, Snyderverse collection, and if James Gunn goes in a completely different direction, that's when my money, I will be done spending money on DC, and things will change. But it still remains to be seen what he is going to reveal. All right, I do appreciate the support as more information gets released, and if this story does continue, I will definitely be covering it, so stick to my channel, and I will be doing videos as all this information comes out. I do appreciate it. We'll see you on the next video.